The WWE found their way to Atlanta, Georgia for Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Saturday night's main event and before the Royal Rumble. And I thought this show was such a weird mix of a bland show that also had some really big moments. Like, the matches didn't feel impactful or important at all. They felt like, I mean, it felt very impactful for JD McDonough, but it like, they didn't feel like these were big things or consequential matches at all. This felt like we have to put matches on because we are a wrestling show and we have sold tickets based on being a wrestling show. So you guys watch, and we're going to have these matches that go for a really long time, and we're going to fill up as much space as we possibly can. And then we'll get to the really important talking segments. Like, this show could have been a talk show with a couple of wrestling matches sprinkled in. I will say, like, Drew against Sami Zayn was a good match. I mean, honestly, like, the matches on this show were good, but it didn't really feel like any of them really advanced anything. It just felt like they were there to fill a lot of time. And so this was a show that would drag, but then you would drag to a brilliant segment. It's like, okay, this was great. And then we drag for a little bit more. And then we get to a brilliant segment. It's like, man, this is a drag. This is just kind of, it's just bland. It was really, really weird. So from a match standpoint, obviously the tag team title match is getting a lot of attention right now because JD McDonough does a moonsault to the floor and hits the hell out of the announce table and just whips everything back. He did post on social media today. I want to get this right because we're talking about medical things and a guy who just got absolutely annihilated. So JD McDonough, again, definitely thought, because the word was that, like, from people at the thing, is that he goes out, does this, like, wicked flip, gets just whipped around. And then they see him in the back, like, he gets to the back, and he just kind of collapses. And so that is not ideal, because everything just gets whipped there. So he posted this 11 hours ago on X. First off, thanks to everyone for the messages and the concern. I'm good. I've got a couple of broken ribs and a punctured lung, so I'm going to be out for a couple of months. All things considered, it could have been a lot worse, so I'm grateful for that. See ya in a bit. Definitely could have been a lot worse. And this is a weird situation because, like, for him to continue on with that match, it is incredible strength and toughness and all of those things. And based off of, like, the speaking out and all of that, I don't have a lot of great things to say about JD McDonough, but I do think you have to give credit where credit was due, and a lot of it was due in this spot. I think it is absurd that he continued in this match. I don't see the benefit of it at all. Like, and maybe, like, you go out there and you're fine, and it's just, you know what, I'm banged up, like, this ain't ballet. So you got the cracked ribs, and it's okay, well, I can grind through this. I can be okay. You don't need to do that. I feel like in 2024, we would all be accepting if that match stopped and JD McDonough had to be taken out. Or even if, like, they just had to carry JD McDonough out and now you have to change a match on the fly with the War Raiders against Dominic Mysterio. I think that you have the War Raiders in there. They are an experienced tag team. Dominic Mysterio has been around the business for a long time, and it's 2025. Communication is what communication is. You can make it work around that. You can do that. This night, this match, whatever. If this is the main event of WrestleMania and it has implications for years to come, then maybe you alter some things a little bit. A tag team match they were going to lose anyway on Raw. I don't think you needed to keep him out there for it. So it felt unnecessary. And then there's the spot where Eric, right? Yeah. Has him in the Phil Nelson thing and he brings him up and then he knees him. And it looked, if that wasn't stiff, then those guys are the best workers in the world, and they might be. But, like, that looked so painful, and he's still taking these things. It's like, man, you can applaud the toughness, you can appreciate what he did, but you can also say that shouldn't have been allowed to happen. And we've gotten better about it with head injuries and stuff like that, or an injury in general, and we'll just stop the match. I don't know why that one wasn't one of those performances there. So looks like he's going to be okay. Looks like he avoided the worst of it. But yeah, that was violent and takes him out of action now for a couple of months. The women's tag team match, it was so long. And again, like it was a well-worked match. They put on a good show. But for a match that I don't think had a whole lot of stakes or anything attached to it, it felt long. And then the Drew McIntyre against Sami Zayn match, like it was a good match. Again, it was a good match. And we do get some story advancement from it after. And so I think the one that kind of helps advance the story the most is Sami Zayn against Drew McIntyre, where like Sami, he comes close to beating Drew, and that has not been the case before. And he kind of got. But you're seeing that Sami is now, we're being a bit more competitive in these main event matches. And then you get the angle after, and he's conflicted. And then Kevin Owens walks right up beside him, and it is perfect. Like, it's that kind of stuff where I'm not saying that wrestling deserves Emmys or stuff like that, but it's that kind of stuff that doesn't get appreciated. Like we talk about all the time, like the one camera shot following along and everything is in one take and Bronson Reed is jumping off of cars onto bigger cars and doing those sorts of things. It's, oh man, this is like a movie and they're doing it in one take. But it's those little things too, those little details that just add to the realism of the story that make this company so good at what they do. Because like it could have just been left there and it's, oh man, Sami is whatever, and Kevin could have come up in any other spot, but Kevin comes up in the perfect spot, lines up right beside him, they have it shot perfectly, and you immediately get the whole story of the whole scene. And it's just like, man, that would take a full day on a TV set. Like I was lucky enough that I was able to go cover one day of shooting for a Netflix television show when I was working at Daily Hive. And I was like there, and it's crazy. Like they're shooting this one scene where it's My Life with the Walter Boys, I think it's called. It's on Netflix. But there's the one scene where the kid is riding his horse out into the arena, and then something happens. I don't know what the something happens is, because they did that shot with a horse just trotting around. They did that 6 times while I was watching. And one time you have to be completely silent, and then one time the whole crowd's gonna go, and then one time there's with dialogue, and then one time we have to position the camera this way. And I was saying, like, this is a lot. And they were saying, no, this is every day. I was like, no wonder these things take so long. They said, yeah, we're going to be shooting for 16 hours today, and we're going to get about 8 minutes. Oh my God. And so you just, and look, I'm not even saying like, oh, can't you guys do it in 8 hours? I'm not even saying like that the movie industry should change things a little bit, because I mean, they're doing well, but I think there does have to be an appreciation that a show and even just a scene that would take all day on a movie shoot, they did it live in front of 14,000 people and the world watching on Netflix at like just right there. Perfectly. So just a little tangent on how good this company can be at some of these things. But let's get to the promos that were really impactful on this night. Gunther and Seth, I think it was really interesting. I think they both made I think they both made really good points, and I think that you really do kind of set up an interesting dynamic. And it's not one, like, because Seth has been kind of in this bloodline adjacent universe for a little bit, and Gunther's been over here kind of kicking the shit out of Judgment Day guys, basically. And then Jey Uso comes in and gets involved in that as well. And so you haven't really put those two sides together fully just yet. But Gunther now with Seth Rollins, like that match would be incredible. And so it kind of gets you excited for that sort of a thing. It was a little bit strange because we have been doing heel Seth, heel Seth, heel Seth, heel Seth, heel Seth. Babyface. He kind of whipped back around into that form a little bit. So there's a lot of shades of gray on this. And then Jake Paul comes out. He does kind of his thing. And Gunther's like, yeah, I hope you win the Royal Rumble. I would love to embarrass you at the Royal Rumble. I think that would be amazing if I could be the one to kick the shit out of you at WrestleMania. I would love that. Just so smarmy and excellent and just out-healing one of the most hateable human beings on the planet. Just bravo. But again, Gunther and Seth, really, really interesting, and I think they did an awesome job with that particular segment. Drew and Heyman, really good. We get the WWE 2K25 reveal thingy that is going on there, and we get all those different things. So I think the video game is going to be good. We're going to be playing 2K24 here in a little bit on the Twitch stream. With Drew coming out and then cutting that promo, it was all just so good. And then he says the thing at the end, like, make sure you let your guy know I'm coming for him. And then Heyman's like, I will let the tribal chief know that you are coming for him. And he walks away, he's like, nah, talking about CM Punk. And it was just like, oh, it was good. And it plants so many seeds. And that is what they are doing. And I think it'll be interesting to go back and see, like, hey, did we water any of these little nuggets along the way that people were looking at? It'll be interesting to go back like 6 months from now and see like what was kind of looked at and now what hasn't been. Like what has been addressed, what hasn't. Where are we at with some of these things? But that was it was just such a good one. And so again, it is in one segment you set up Drew versus Roman and you set up Drew versus Punk still and keep that one going, but then you also tie in Heyman with where are his allegiances really, and you just remind people that there is this conflict there. So again, you address like 3 or 4 different stories with just one little comment. It was so good. And then the Punk Cody segment at the end was very interesting. Just watching Cody and seeing the spiral, you really got a sense of everything's fine in Bullet Club. You know, like it felt like it's not exactly like that, because in that one, Cody was just everything's fine, everything's great, or we all get along, don't we? Like, so it is not like we're not stealing from that, but it just felt like hey, you know what? I'm fine, everything's great, I'm good, don't worry about me. And you're starting to see those cracks, and you're starting to see whatever. It's like, yeah, everything's fine with Cody Rhodes. Everything's fine with Cody Rhodes. But they did a good job with this one. And like, the thing that I like about it, and we'll tie it all together at the end, but everyone's motivations feel legitimate. And it really, really did seem, cutting that promo, that Cody is on the verge of a heel turn, didn't it? Like, it felt like Cody is, like, he's looking up and I can finally be rid of this Kevin Owens thing and we can get to WrestleMania. And then, but before that, Sammy, who's supposed to be his friend, kicked him in the face. Now, accidentally, but he kicked him in the face. And he's supposed to be his friend, but there's a little bit of a tie with Kevin Owens there. And that has been a story for Cody for a bit of this. It's that, like, hey, can I trust Randy Orton? All right, well, I got your back. But now I'm going into this thing and I'm with Roman Reigns. And, like, can I trust this guy? I don't know. And it is turning out that, like, his friend, Kevin Owens, who he gave a title shot to initially because he said that Kevin Owens, like, he is his friend and Kevin Owens deserves it. And now Kevin Owens has taken advantage of that friendship into this blood feud that is going to, that has continued with Kevin Owens attacking him constantly, trying to, in storyline, murder him with a pile driver, pretending he is the champion that Cody worked so hard for, just degrading everything that Cody worked so hard for, and is now culminating in a violent ladder match that could take everything away from Cody, all while wearing all of these shirts mocking Cody Rhodes' father's history, something that is very close to him, and then just mocking Cody in general. And so, yeah, that, if my best friend was doing that kind of stuff to me, I'd have some trust issues. And so there's just all these, like, who can I really believe? Well, these guys are my friends here, and I think we're all kind of assuming that there's going to be maybe a Randy turn on him at some point. But, like, all these guys are my friends over here, but they're kind of getting pissed at me for this one thing. But, like, these guys are my enemies, like The Rock and Roman Reigns. The Rock's having tequila shots with me, and Roman's just being straight up, like, I trust you, man. We did this thing together. I really appreciate you. I'm coming for that title, though. And he's at least being straightforward with him, where instead, like, you can doubt you can doubt Kevin Owens's motivations. You can doubt Sammy's motivations. You can doubt, so his friends are the ones that he has this doubt in. And so just from a, like, comic book standpoint, that is how, like, that sounds like a villain origin story, doesn't it? So I think it is a really, really interesting kind of arc here in this story of a will he or won't he just lose his mind at some point. And I think it is a very fascinating development in this character, that he's not just like, I'm gonna win at this and I'm gonna blah, 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 and just cut this, like, Cody white mate babyface promo that I'm gonna be the guy and I'm gonna do it. And instead it's like, I'm getting really fucking tired of all of this and I'm just going to lose it. And then Punk comes out and they have this really good back and forth. Both of them are very good on the microphone, and it makes me think, okay, well, Punk's winning the Rumble on Sunday. But then, again, there's Roman, there's Cena, there's all these different guys who are involved in all of this. So it sets up what looks like the obvious way that they want you to go. But every segment involving someone where they're saying, I'm going to win the Rumble, and it is because of this, and this, not just, and I'm going to go to WrestleMania, I'm going to point at the sign, and it's going to be great. It is, no, these are my motivations, this is why I think it could happen, and this is it. Like, it's all been very logically placed forward. So again, I think the build for the Royal Rumble has been excellent. And all these different things in the show, and this is kind of the tying it all together. The thing that I have really, really appreciated about WWE right now, and it is not to take unnecessary shots, but it is one of the things that's been lacking in AEW for a little bit, is all of these motivations that we have expressed on this show tonight seem legitimate. Gunther thinks he is the best wrestler in the world. There is a little bit of self-doubt in there because he lost to Cody. And so before, it was presenting itself in like some of these matches are a little bit closer and maybe I'm doubting myself. Now, there's maybe a touch of overcompensating going on and I'm just going to laugh all my challengers off and say how shitty they are. Seth Rollins, that's the one where there's been a little flip-flopping and you don't really know, but all of it has been geared to, all the flip-flopping has been geared toward kind of control of WWE, right? Like they wanted to make sure the bloodline didn't have control, so he went out and he did that thing. And now he's pissed that people are with them and letting them kind of control the WWE again. So what's the best way that Seth Rollins can control it? By being the World Heavyweight Champion and just kind of wresting everything back to where it is again. Drew McIntyre doesn't trust anyone and is trying to plant those seeds of doubt and thinks everyone is lying to everyone all the time. And so he's planting that in everyone while still having that main focus of the championship that validates him because the bloodline took it away from him. So all of his motivations, legitimate, and the character is all based off of that. Cody, we just talked about how it has to be wearing on him that a guy who was his friend is now his blood feud and has turned into this thing, and it is just getting exhausting hearing every one of your friends say, I want to beat you to become the world champion. And so that is kind of turning him crazy. And then Punk is coming out, it's like, look, I've always been a straight shooter with you. I respect you, but I'm better than you. And even Cody was saying, like, there's a little bit of a motivation, like, look, I needed to prove to myself that I was at the top of the mountain, and now I kind of need to prove to myself that I'm better than you because we've been chasing you this whole time. Everyone's motivations just seem so in line with everything. We talked about the Sammy thing last week, about how it feels like everything that happens around him fits that character perfectly. And so that is an attention to detail that was missing in WWE for a really long time. Their idea of character development was just switching the color of John Cena's shirts every 6 months. That there was there was some depth to that character, but there wasn't this level of it. And it just seems they have really figured out what each character individually is, what their motivation should be, and they view everything they do through that character, through that prism, and it is made for an excellent, excellent television program. Overall, I would say this was, if I had to just categorize as good or bad, this was a bad show. It really did drag. It had enough big moments that it's probably an in the middle one, but you are in a tough spot. You're coming off of a very big show on Saturday night's main event, and you are leading up to a very big show. So you can't really set up anything huge. You can tease a couple of things, but you can't set up a whole lot groundbreaking. So you are just in a bit of a holding pattern until we get to Saturday and can kick things into full gear on the road to Las Vegas and WrestleMania. So it should be a fun ride getting there. Coming up later on in the stream, and for podcast listeners coming up tomorrow, we are going to look at just simple, who could win the Royal Rumble? This isn't a preview. This isn't even what I would do. This is just a who could win and why could they win? Why? Let's make the case for a few different people and see where we could go with that.